24 years ago, this past week, I was completing a 2-week stint with some medical workers that included dentists and physicians and some carpenters. And we spent 2 weeks in the country of Mongolia. Let's test your geography. What country is south of Mongolia? Excellent. And north? Russia. Yeah. The medical team offered care, dental care, and physical exams. And the construction crew of which I was a part, as I said, we started building a house that we'd never completed it, but other groups followed us, and it was to house alcoholics, which was a real problem in the town of Durhan, Mongolia, which was just 80 miles south of Russia. And when we completed the 2-week of helping and learning more about the culture, we flew back to Beijing, China for a couple days of R&R before heading back to the States. And on the last day of our stay in Beijing, I decided to head out alone with my trusty Nikon camera for a day of people watching and following wherever the lone alleys brought me. I call that aimlessly wandering with intent, by the way. You should try it sometime. It's great. I remember coming back to the hotel and entering a crowded elevator. And there were foreign tourists, about a dozen of them crowded into an elevator. I had my U.S. passport in hand, and a woman looked at me and looked at my passport and said something to me in French which I didn't understand, but it sounded very sincere. And I thanked her. A Chinese military soldier was standing in the back of the elevator, very stern looking in full regalia and hat. He looked at me and nodded politely, and I politely returned the nod. Others on the elevator gestured with deep sincerity, looking at me and seeing my passport, and I gestured back with nods. When my elevator reached the 9th floor of the hotel, I got off, I found my room, I kicked off my shoes, I threw myself on the bed, turned on the TV, and I tuned into CNN. And I heard for the first time that the Twin Towers had been attacked and had collapsed and were no more in the city nearby which I had once served as a pastor. 3 days later, I finally was able to fly back when the airways were relatively safe, and I was mighty thankful to touch the soil of my country. 'Tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. No matter the nationality, no matter the citizenship, no matter the language spoken, I know, as you all know, we're all connected. And having said that, I fully realize that my reflection title might not sit well with all of you here. How do we love creation when we can't stop killing each other? I can understand if some of you think that's a real downer of a message, and it probably is. And others of you might wish that all you need to hear is that the divine light shines in you, and have a good week. That's appropriate too. And some of you might rightly say, Damn it, Plasman, keep politics out of the pulpit. Not inappropriate. It's another killing of a very public figure, Charlie Kirk, whose name I did not know very well until last week. Politically conservative, huge online presence, an instigator of hate speech, a gun enthusiast, a diehard supporter of the Second Amendment, a self-proclaimed follower of Jesus, his Lord. He also had the ear of the president, which might be more important than having the ear of the Lord. 1 minute later, after he was killed, exactly 1 minute later, Evergreen, Colorado, there was another mass shooting. 2 injured, 2 students injured. And a 16-year-old gunman finally turned the gun on himself and offed himself. Do you know what 400 million represents? Anybody want to take a stab at that? 400 million. Number of guns. It's hard to get a total tally and calculation of it, but some estimates put it at 500 million, but 400 million seems about right. That's more guns than citizens, by the way. And one of our 2 political parties, far more beholden to the deep pockets of the NRA than the other. That's the truth. We're not frolicking in the mythical Garden of Eden anymore, and understand me when I say mythical, because I believe that much of Genesis, and especially Genesis 1 and 2, is purely mythical. They're not factual events. The places are not on any map necessarily. It's not necessary to believe in any sense of the word that Adam and Eve were even real figures. It's poetry. And poetry doesn't have to be literally true, as you all know, to be true. Thus, with Genesis. The creation stories, I maintain, are mythic poetry, and poetry has a shelf life that really lasts forever. And that's the value of poetry. Now, Carol read for us a contemporary reading this morning from Robin Wall Kimmerer. I don't know how many of you have heard of that name or have even read some of her books. She teaches environmental science and forestry at one of the universities in upstate New York. I think it was at Syracuse. And probably her best-selling book was entitled Braiding Sweetgrass. Some of you read it. If you haven't read it, may I commend it to your reading, Braiding Sweetgrass. Jody and I read it once. We listened to it on our commutes back and forth. I can't wait to read it again, actually. And I'm going to read again what Carol read for us this morning, one of the quotes from Braiding Sweetgrass, How to Care for the Earth. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission before taking. Abide by the answer, never take first, never take last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Know the ways of the plants who take care of you, so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Take no more than half. Leave some for others. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you've taken. Share. Give thanks for what you've been given. Give a gift. Give a gift for what you've taken. And sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. Let me ask the question again, rather directly and maybe troublingly. We know how to kill each other very well, but how do we care for creation? Let me suggest a few answers. How do we love creation? Get in touch with the soil. From what little Hebrew I remember in seminary, Adam is pronounced in Hebrew Adam, and Adam came from the soil, which is pronounced Adama. Interesting little tidbit of Hebrew. Adam comes from the soil. Adam is part of the soil, of the ground. And when Adam was too befuddled to figure out life, God created a partner, Eve. Or, if it's in your nature, Steve. To be equal on the earth, to care, to tend, to garden, to preserve. How do we love creation? Well, walk barefoot in the yard. Let the soil get between your toes. Tread lightly on the young plants. How do we care for creation? Become a gardener. We're all amateurs, but till the earth, even if your plot of earth is one clay pot of dirt, till it, feed it, comfort it. How do we love creation? Grow something you can eat. Beans, tomatoes, peppers, zucchini. We got zucchinis the size of bowling pins in our... Squash, strawberries, raspberries. What could be more satisfying? How do we love creation? Talk to the beings you're caring for. Seriously. I'm convinced plants listen. They listen. I mean, why do we call it ears of corn? Argue with me if you want, but it's right there. How do we love creation? Forget the Scott's fertilizer. Forget Roundup. If you can't sleep knowing there are weeds growing, pull them up or spray them with a natural solution of vinegar and salt water or some combination thereof. How do we love creation? Propagate something that just might outlive you, like an oak or an elm or a basswood. Okay. Jody and I have a habit that we reluctantly have to confess. We have a 12, 15-foot tall Japanese maple in our yard. We know it's not native to Michigan, but it's a beautiful tree. It's not invasive. I mean, it doesn't multiply very frequently, but we have 45 of these plants in pots that germinated from seed. This is about is it 2 years old? Yeah, 2 or 3 years old. It'll probably grow at least 8 to 10 inches a year. What do you do with 45 Japanese red maples? They're called Acer palmatum. Acer palmatum. Acer being a Latin word, it means jagged and sort of sharp edge, just like the edge of the leaves are. And palmatum has the the base word of palm. So it looks like a palm that has jagged edged leaves. It's one thing to have one tree in your yard. What do you do with 45? That's what I'm pondering at this moment, and I don't have an answer. But I will say this. If you think you might like to have one of these trees, and I have some that are this small too, and this is one of the taller ones, we would be happy. We would be forever grateful if you would like to have one in any condition. Just let us know. How's that? Yeah. I might even pay you to take it, but yeah. Finally, how do we love creation? Most of you have a driver's license. I'd ask you to pull it out now and raise your hand if it's on, but do you have a red donor heart on the face of your driver's license? How many do? Oh, oh my gosh, that's wonderful. More than 114,000 people in our country are waiting for organ donations. 114,000 people. Hearts, kidneys, livers, and other organs. 114,000, that's a city the size of Lansing, Michigan. 114,000. 17 people die every day. That's over 6,000 people die every year waiting for life-saving organs that never arrive. One deceased donor can save up to 8 lives through donor gifting. Consider 2 kidneys can free 2 people from the burden of dialysis. A donated liver, donated to a deceased person or a person on the waiting list, can be split. It can save 2 patients from the transplant list. 2 lungs can help 2 individuals breathe more freely. A heart can restore life to someone in critical condition. One who donates a pancreas can transform the life of a person with diabetes. One who donates bone or cartilage or blood vessels or connective tissue or skin or corneas or heart valves or blood vessels. Such a donor having that kind of impact can save as many as 75 people in need of such gifts. That's how we love creation, by giving and giving back. When the dead gifts an organ, a heart, say. When the dead gifts an organ, a heart, say. That doesn't make the dead heartless. Quite the contrary. So thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for the gifts you bring to this church. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for the ways you sustain this building, this ministry, and all your outreach efforts. Thank you. Be safe and make it safe for others. And someday, we will not be so good at killing each other. Amen.